Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's Let's Talk Organic webinar. This is the last of our autumn stroke spring series of webinars. Hopefully we'll pick them up again next autumn. So tonight we're going to look at the option of direct selling of organic produce. So I suppose we often hear people maybe complaining about the price they got from the processor, whether it be for a litre of milk or a kilo of meat or whatever. So tonight we're looking at maybe taking the processor out of the equation and selling direct to the consumer so that the farmer or the grower can maximize the value of the product that they're selling and keep a larger portion of that price for themselves. So tonight we have three great speakers. First up is Barry Caslin of Teagasc, and Barry is our Energy and Rural Development Specialist. Now Barry is going to go through the supports that are available for anyone that is thinking of direct selling, whether it be financial supports or mentoring supports. He will cover a good overview of the whole support side of things. And then we have three farmer speakers. So next up, second will be Ollie and Esther O'Brien from Newport and Tipperary. And Ollie and Esther are selling eggs and beef direct to the consumer under the brand of Cúlbhac Farms. I hope I got the pronunciation right there. And then third up is Clive Bright. Clive is in Ballymote in Sligo, and Clive sells beef direct to the consumer as well under the brand of Rare Ruminare. So we've a great lineup. So I think what we'll do is we'll take all questions at the end. So if you have questions there as they're speaking, you can put them into the chat function there at the bottom, and we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So Barry, I might ask you to start presenting there, and we'll hand it over to you to kick the ball in.
Okay, can you see that okay, Joe, at the moment?
Perfect, Barry, yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much, Joe, for the invite to speak to you here this evening. So I'm going to talk to you about this supporting direct selling of organic produce. Obviously, it's very relevant to the organic sector because you're trying to develop markets in this whole area, and you're trying to develop add value to your product. And I suppose you're linking it up with your farm enterprise, whether that's beef or dairy. You're looking at what you have to sell as an organic product and trying to get a market for that. And very often, you know, that's not easy because you're actually taking the whole supply chain by the scruff of the neck yourself. So there's a lot of discipline required to do that. So it's only some people are, I suppose, able or capable of doing that. But I suppose why people from farming are suited to business startups in the first place. They're multi-skilled people, good at different types of disciplines in terms of welding, machinery, animal husbandry. They're familiar with handling their own finances, which is a big plus in this whole area as well. They usually have assets such as land or stock, which they can use as collateral in terms of getting loans to develop a new business or get it off the ground. I think there's a good work ethic amongst farmers as well. They're not afraid of getting out there, getting their hands dirty and doing a good day's work, and familiar with dealing with people. And this is very, very important in terms of buying, selling, because this is what you essentially need to be able to do, is deal with people to develop your markets. And this is one of the challenges. I was asked to speak about some of the supports that are there for people who are trying to start a new business like this. So I just want to talk about some of the areas that we're involved in. We run the farm under the Rural Development Programme within Teagasc. That's the website for it there at the bottom. We run different things like the Farm Business Options Programme. They're seminars that run over 6 weeks, and they'll be running throughout the country at the end of the year. We did a pilot on a new version of it together with the local enterprise office in Roscommon as a new model of the Farm Business Options Programme. So we ran that in Roscommon. It went through the 5th night last night. We bring in champions to speak about their I suppose challenges along the way in developing a new product or a new business or diversification on their farm. And we also work with the LEO in terms of their mentors as regards supports that are there through the mentors through the LEO networks. And that would be mentors in the area of business planning, in the area of finance, marketing, all those areas. And of course, the big part of it is developing a business plan. So we have a number of diversification fact sheets on our website and a number of videos that are there as well. So I'd just maybe refer you to that as a good information source for people who are starting out. I just wanted to talk as well about maybe networks in the country that are suitable as well, along with Teagasc, and who we work with quite well is the local enterprise offices. And they were established back in 2014. They're part of the local authority or your county council. They partner with Enterprise Ireland. There's a total of 31 of those networks right throughout the country. And they provide supports for anybody employing less than 10 people. So it's small business owners. And if you want to find your own local enterprise office around the country or within your functional area, there's a link at the bottom of this slide. And of course, these slides will be made available afterwards if anyone wants to look at them and go through them in their own time. I suppose, and the role of those local enterprise offices is to offer business information, advisory services, and enterprise supports. They deliver high quality training to meet the needs of small businesses. They mentor small to medium enterprises with experienced experts, or we call them mentors. So they have a panel of people who they can draw from throughout their area. So if it's whatever county you're in, there's a network of panelists or mentors who they can draw upon to help you with maybe marketing. Because let's face it, we're not all experts in all areas. So sometimes, you know, it can be difficult, and it's not for the faint-hearted to take over a new business, because you are taking different elements of the supply chain by the scruff of the neck yourself. So in order to do that, it can be very useful to be able to lean on, I suppose, expertise that's within your county, and that's subsidized by your local enterprise office. And very often that service is free from your local enterprise office. So they provide direct financial supports also to micro enterprise. They advise on a large range of alternative funding options that are available. So that they may be funding options that are outside of the LEO itself, and to be the best interest rates available. And they encourage and promote entrepreneurship in the county. The type of training courses, and if you go on the website of your LEO in your own area, great courses for people who are starting their own business, like the Start Your Own Business course itself. And that's essentially the course we're running to the Farm Business Options, but we've tweaked it for agriculture. So those courses that we're running are linked to the LEO training of the Start Your Own Business course. As I say, they'll be running towards the end of this year. We'll be promoting the ploughing championships later on this year. Grow your business, basic bookkeeping, computerized accounts, sales and marketing, HR training, social media, customs training for people that are in exporting, food academy program, food hygiene. So they have a lot of courses. In the area of the business mentoring, they provide support in the area of strategic planning. That would be the likes of developing a business plan, marketing strategies, financial planning and cost control, production planning, new market development, and new product development as well. And other supports that they provide would be in the area of feasibility study grants. So if you want to carry out a feasibility study, if you have an idea and you're wondering, does it make sense? You know, maybe how should you be pricing your product? That can be a very difficult challenge when you're going onto the market, is how do I price myself so that I'm not overpricing myself or not underpricing myself? So that would be all part of a feasibility study to see, yeah, and obviously to pay you a decent wage at the end of the month or the week as well. All of that has to all stack up. So that's all part of the feasibility study of what your proposal is. They provide, they provide grants towards that feasibility study as well. They provide innovation vouchers, an agile fund, priming and expansion grants, and market development financial assistance as well. So that would be maybe for the development of a website for the promotion of your business. You could get funded from the LEO for that. They provide technical assistance for micro exporters as well, or TAME support. And through Microfinance Ireland, you can get lower rates of loans through the LEO. Now you can go to Microfinance Ireland directly yourself. I think the APR rate might be just over 5%, maybe 5.5%, but it's at 1% lower at 4.5% if you go through your LEO, if you're referred by your LEO onto Microfinance Ireland. So that's why it can be a good route. And Microfinance Ireland provide loans between €6,000 and €25,000 to businesses. And again, it's to those small businesses, like we're talking about here, who will be under the LEO banner. So to move on, Enterprise Ireland is linked to the LEOs, but you can get innovation vouchers through Enterprise Ireland and also through your LEO, and they're up to €5,000. So sometimes maybe if you're in the food area, you might want to research a product, you might want to maybe do recipe analysis, maybe, and that's where you could use like the Teagasc Food Centre in Ashtown, or maybe Moore Park, or maybe the BIA Innovation Campus in Athenry. And you could get or some of the universities. And if there was something that you wanted to research, you could get your innovation voucher worth 5,000 and cash it in with those research institutes. And that's worth €5,000 per year. So that's just to be aware of it, that these grants, they're research and development grants for larger projects of over 300,000 are also available through Enterprise Ireland. So they may be of relevance to some people. Then to move on to another agency that's relevant to people starting to use business as Leader. It's a funded initiative open to relevant applicants from community and voluntary groups to private individuals and small to medium enterprises. So Leader can offer a grant, aid and support to projects aimed to promote social inclusion, improve quality of life and economic opportunities within the framework of the approved local development service and operating rules. And if anyone wants to find who their Leader network is in their area, that's website that's underneath there, ildn.ie/directory, and that will bring it to the Leader network in your functional area. So well worth a call. It's funded through Pillar 2 of the Common Agricultural Policy. So it's rural development funding, and you can have up to, depending on what you're looking for, they are funding food projects as well, but you could be talking about 50% grants, community grants go up to 90%, so they're worth a call as well. There's three key themes under Leader. There's the economic, enterprise development and job creation, so all of those rural tourism enterprise are under that, and then you have social inclusion, and then you have social inclusion will generally be at 90% grant rate, and then rural environment will be the third area. And what you do with your Leader is you put in an expression of interest. So it will be important to put in your expression of interest as early as possible to make them aware of what you're interested in applying for grant funding for, and they will let you know, say, yes, now you're at a point where you can actually put in your full application because we think your project is suitable. So to get those expressions of interest in will be very important. And that's open all the time, that Leader funding. We are coming to the end of the current Rural Development Programme period at the end of this year, and we will be into a new Rural Development Programme period at the beginning of January of next year. So it'll be a new set of funding that will become available. We don't know the terms and conditions of that yet. But for anyone that wants to familiarise themselves with Leader, they could talk to their local Leader office. So the Department of Agriculture Arts and Foods Initiatives, so they in this current Leader programme, there's €15 million available under the area of arts and foods. So there was a national call for proposals there. So this was the first time in a long time that food has been supported in the Leader programme. So it's great to see it getting that boost. In terms of registering your food business, there's different authorities that you may have to deal with, like your EHO, your Environmental Health Office. You may have to register if you're bottling milk, for example. You may have to register with the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. You may have to register with your local authority, veterinary service, your Sea Fisheries Protection Authority. If it's fish products, so your business has to be registered, and there may be different authorities that you're dealing with. I also want to bring your attention to the Food Safety Authority of Ireland, their website, and an abundance of information there as regards how you go about registering your business. That's a screenshot there from their website, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland, and you can see there the website there at the bottom that you can link into, and a great amount of information on the Food Safety Authority of Ireland's website. Everything from traceability systems to food hygiene regulations, food safety management. So there's a lot of useful publications there as well. They also have an e-learning platform there in terms of food additives, different modules that they have in terms of pre-packed foods, the requirements for pre-packed foods, nutritional information, obviously, which has to be labeling requirements of food as well, which is highly important. So there's some of the fact sheets that they have as well on their business startup fact sheets, starting a food business in the home. So various guiding notes on marketing and shelf life and traceability, HACCP compliance. these are all the areas that people who are starting a new business need to be aware of, and very often you mightn't be aware of the registration requirement of a business, and it may come as a bolt out of the blue to some people that there may be certain costs or hidden costs that they hadn't envisaged as well. So at least when you're doing your business plan, you'll be able to include as much as possible in that from the outset. Just some other good information that's available from Bord Bia, who's our food marketing board and state body, and they have consumer insights. So they would have a lot of information as regards, especially if you're in the export business, what the consumer demands would be in different countries throughout the world. And that's a great link there especially if you're exporting. And you can also get emails directly from Bord Bia about this. So you can just go into the Bord Bia Insights or Google Bord Bia Insights, and you'll get more information about that. In terms of food entrepreneurship as well, there's a Food Works program. That's a joint initiative between Teagasc, Enterprise Ireland and Bord Bia. And this allows people to go on this. These are people who are fairly well established who would go on the Food Works program. So there wouldn't be startups. But if you are fairly well down the line and you want some more supports from the likes of Teagasc and Enterprise Ireland and Bord Bia, the Food Works program is something that might be worth considering as well. It started since 2012, 6 different programs, and there's 90 different enterprises participating in that option. In terms of Teagasc as well, at our product research and development under the food technology unit, there's a lot of expertise there in terms of product development kitchens available in the likes of Moore Park, prepared consumer food centre, there's the regulatory approval processing plant, there's test laboratories, there's the sensory testing can be done in Ashtown and also in Moore Park. That'll be a tasting team who go in to taste food and rate it. Connections with research scientists and packaging as well. So there's a lot of equipment that's available in the likes of Moore Park especially, and there will be more of that available in the likes of the BIA Innovator Campus in Athenry when that gets up and running, hopefully by September, October of this year. Yeah, and there's upcoming training there, and there's a contact detail there of Carla Griffin, my colleague who works in the food technology department in Ashtown. And they have, of course, like butchering of beef, pork and lamb. So there's a slaughtering course there. The next one is beginning on the 6th of April. I don't know what places are available for that, but if anybody is interested, you could contact Teagasc Ashtown or Google that, butchering and beef training in courses. There's also that link that's down there on the left, Teagasc Food Research and Innovation, so that all the courses and training that's available can be seen on that link, and it's possible to register through that as well. There's also a new product development course. I did this myself a few years ago, and it was run by the food technology unit there in Ashtown. It's also run in Moore Park in Cork, and it depends on demand where they're run. The last 2 years have been run online. I think they're far better, obviously, when they're in person. But it might be of interest to people who are trying to develop a new product, because you're speaking to people who are coming from different backgrounds, from different industries. And I think the networking is very, very valuable in that particular course as well. They're generally run as one-day courses, covering everything from labeling and dealing with sensory experts, and absolutely fantastic course. Yeah, and I just wanted to draw your attention finally as well to the BIA Innovator Campus in Athenry. So this is the one I did mention it throughout here. So this is going to be fantastic. It's going to be different units for training. There's going to be master kitchens there with all the latest modern equipment for that you can actually test out your own products in a kitchen. There'll be various courses run here, from cheese making courses to labeling courses, HACCP courses, and of course the facilities are available for rent as well, to use those kitchens and use state-of-the-art equipment if you don't have that at home in your own kitchen. And obviously you'll have more modern commercial type equipment which you potentially could replicate, and may give you ideas for how you go about growing your own business based on this. So this hopefully will be open by by September, October of this year. It's currently being built. It got delayed through COVID. It should have been up and running at this stage. But there's been an €8 million investment in this. This is a joint collaboration between Teagasc, Galway County Council, and it's going to be up in Enterprise Ireland. It's going to be up and running hopefully before the end of this year. So in conclusion, I'd say there's many supports out there. It's important to use them. I think that the best projects complement the existing farm business. That, you know, if you're in beef, if you're in dairy, if you're in horticulture, and especially on the organic side, and to create those links here now, that you know that you're adding value to your product, and you think about how you can best add value to that product. And you know, it's so important to go and see how this has been done in other countries. I think Germany is a great example of this. We visited there a number of years ago with our own advisors, and we just saw how they're selling in their own farm shops, adding value. And there's great examples there of, you know, adding value. And I suppose there's a big market, obviously, for organic produce in places like Germany also. They put a very strong value on our organic produce. A good project will remove the volatility as well that exists in the current farming business, because as we know, there's a lot of volatility in prices and everything like that. And we know that with fertilizer and various input costs at the moment have gone through the roof. So by adding some value yourself, you're more in control. And obviously it does require a lot of forward planning and looking at every aspect of the business. You have to be aware of things like, you know, labor, finance, and, you know, how to grow the business from, I suppose, a very small level and to grow it gradually over time. Some people go in very, very fast and try and develop their food product at an accelerated pace, whereas sometimes doing it slowly but surely can be the best option. So I'll leave it at that, Joe, and hand it back to you. I'll stop sharing here. And
thank you, Barry. Very comprehensive there, Barry. There was a lot of information there, and I suppose for anyone that is listening in, tonight's webinar is being recorded and it'll be up on the Teagasc website in a day or two, along with Barry's slides there as well. We'll put them up, so if anyone wants to maybe look back, because there was a lot of good information in there, Barry, and a lot of detail. So I'm sure it will be useful for people to look back on them. So thanks, Barry, and we're going to hand over now to Ollie and Esther, who are going to tell us their story. And I suppose maybe I'd just ask you maybe just to give us an idea of how you got started, where you're selling your produce, how you're selling your produce, maybe how you're marketing it, and in general, how's it going? So I'll hand over to you, and you might tell us your story, please. I don't know who's nominated as the key spokesperson.
I'll start off. Yeah.
Off you go, Ali.
I'm going to talk about a little bit about the history, what we're selling, how we're selling it, and then I'll pass over to Esther, let her speak a bit more about the branding and marketing of mostly our egg. It's about eggs and beef, but I'm going to speak mostly about eggs. Beef is just something we've added recently, and it's kind of an add-on to the eggs, so I won't go into that in too much detail. So I'm just going to speak mostly about the eggs and how we got started with that. So the end of May 2020, we got our first bunch of hens, 300 hens. They're all run on mobile coops out on the grass. So we got a bit of a shock come July. We ended up getting 300 eggs a day, and a lot of eggs to try and get rid of. So that was a bit of a shock to us. We thought we'd, you know, I suppose it's kind of, you can't sell a product until you have it, and we had to wait till we had it, and then we had it in a lot of it. And in the first couple of months there was a bit of waste, but we were gradually able to build from that then and tried to figure out some markets. We tried a few different things. We tried some of these things worked, some of them didn't work. We're still doing some, we're not doing others. One thing that didn't work, we tried to do pre-orders where people pre-order their eggs, and we set up a little stall for maybe 20 minutes and they come and collect their eggs and go again. It's kind of on the line of a Rico ring, kind of similar, but it was just us doing it. Rico was something we looked at too, but there wasn't enough producers to get involved to get it going, so we never really pushed forward with that. Our initial thing was to try and sell all our eggs locally. as locally as we can. But that at the start, that didn't really work out. We were approached by Neighbour Food. I think it was initially in Galway, and Esther ended up going to Galway to 2 Neighbour Foods, which was a bit of a drive for us. It was probably an hour 15, an hour 20's drive each way. So, but we had all these eggs and we wanted to get rid of them. So that was a way to get rid of them. What else was there? There was the what was that? One thing that I swore blindly wouldn't work, and Esther was adamant that it would, was an honesty box. That's just from New Zealand, and honesty boxes are all over the place. And I said, no, we'll get fleeced. It's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. And I've the humble pie, and it's probably our best sale still. You know, it's fantastic. It's right outside the house. People can come and go, and there's eggs in the box. They leave their money, and what can I say? People are honest. You know, that sale is continuing. It's fantastic, and it's easy. There's no cost to us apart from putting the eggs outside, and that's it. Going forward, then there was our closest town is Newport. It's 2 miles down the road, so we wanted to get local people buying our produce. So we set up a stall there. First, it was on a Thursday evening for a couple of hours, and then a Saturday morning. The Thursday evening didn't really work, so we kept going with the Saturday morning, and we kept going until a couple of weeks ago. We've stopped that now for other reasons, but that was a great sale. You know, we're able to get rid of a lot of eggs on the Saturday morning. There's a lot of passing traffic with people taking kids to sports and stuff like that. And that was even amplified, we'll say, throughout COVID, when people wanted to buy local, and that really boosted our sales. Going forward, then there's a local market in Castletroy in Limerick. We're not too far from Limerick. We're only 12 miles from it. So that's something we started off early enough as well. We got in there, and we're still there now, and it's a very good market every Friday. We can sell quite a lot of eggs there as well. What kind of changed things for us then is moving forward, we started off with 300 hens, and we gradually built up to 750 hens. So we had a lot of eggs, and we found we weren't able to sell them all locally. It wasn't possible. So selling direct to people and individuals and families, it just wasn't possible. So we ended up getting an improved pack centre on the farm for the eggs. When we got the pack centre approved, it basically opened us up to get into restaurants, cafes, and a bit of retail as well, which was fantastic because, you know, we were able to, you know, give these people eggs at a price that was fair to us. And we were still getting a good price for our eggs, and we were able to get rid of all our eggs, which was something we didn't want waste. So that kind of moved us into, we're in the urban co-op in Limerick. We're in a lot of cafes and restaurants in Limerick. What else was there now? What else was there, Esther?
So yeah, even going to having the egg packery, we're still direct selling, but we're direct selling to businesses, so we're able to do that as well, which is just having a few different options of direct selling, because we like the direct selling way, because we want to cut out the middleman and control the price more, and we're able to have full-time employment on the farm, both of us. We started off, it was just myself doing it, and Ollie had to work, and when we kind of got it going, we could both work full-time on the farm. So we've got it up to the point where we have a few different avenues of direct selling with a little bit of retail as well, and regular orders, but having that connection with our customers. We have a lot of faithful, that real loyal customers who spread the word as well, and I think that's really important. And we've started, we can't get into some markets, or we can't get into some areas, so we've started selling them to other market stalls, like the milk market, and another guy takes them to us to Dublin. So if we can't be there in person, at least it's still kind of direct selling, but at markets, so we do that as well. In the future too, we really like our honesty box, and we're thinking maybe making that bigger, or having a farm shop where we can have people come and collect eggs. And we have our market for eggs. We've started doing beef boxes from the farm gate collection, and we might even take that to the market. We do salad during the spring and summer months. So instead of trying to widen our markets, we had to start going to Galway, and that we've actually drawn it in as we try and do as local as possible, and we're starting to put more products on to grow it that way. And shall I talk about how we start?
Talk about the brand.
We started off in lockdown, and I was wondering, like, how are we going to sell all these eggs? We had the honesty box going, but all we really had was social media, and I started a Facebook and Instagram page and started pushing that locally, first through friends and family, and then I found what was really handy was that I could put up just photos and photos and photos of what we do on the farm, and people like to see that. So everything, how we're starting out, we found people like to see how we started the business, how it's growing, and they like to see, oh, we're in this place now, we're at this place now, and they share it with their friends. And then I would take one of those pictures, and you're able to pay a bit of money to Facebook and choose your audience area. So I might, for the honesty box, I might go, I want to target a market of 10 kilometre radius from our house around. So everyone that looks at their Instagram, their social media, will get a little picture of Cúlbhac Farm. Even if they just flip past it, if they just see it, they get to know people, like everyone that comes up to us in the markets goes, I see you doing this. Or so it's really like, if I want to pick up sales, I'll put that on. And it's just like that. You really see instant comeback in your sales. So we found that was really good and really efficient. So we haven't started a website yet, because I find you get more traction with social media. But I'd like to start doing a website for people that aren't on social media as well to find us. So we found that's really one of the best things we could to market our product. Labels and that are really important, signage. So I used like apps you could use at home, like Adobe Spark, and just using our photos as much as possible, because that's kind of what we have. It's organic, we're really into biodiversity, so it's also about our farm environment. So we really push that to market our products, and using buzzwords and stuff like that. And with all our labels and that, we send them off to Irish Organic Association, the Department of Agriculture. So they look at everything and make sure that we have all the details we need on it. And even they gave us some suggestions on how to, like, I update the labels to try and keep it fresh, like things that might not have been obvious to us, like put organic on the label, but it wasn't like in your face. So I put a picture of our hens, and you just be on your toes all the time to keep it fresh and change all the time. What else is there? Just having a great relationship with your customers online. Make sure that you thank them, and they'll spread the word about your product. Choosing the right markets to go to, like we go to Castletroy Market, as Ollie said, and that's outside a supermarket. So if we're selling wholesale eggs, beef salad, people go there for their shopping, so they're our customers. We don't want to go to a pop-up market once a month, or a craft market, or even a market that's mainly hot food. Like, you choose, if you are hot food, you want to go there, you just choose your market, because you see at different markets you do better or not so good, And also, if you're doing a pop-up, just make sure that it's okay to be there, and choose somewhere that you're seen. Like, we did go to one village where the traffic was just so busy that even though people were staying in their cars, there were so many people, they wouldn't stop. So you really, so also timing, what time are you going out, how long are you going out for? And how Ollie said, the pre-orders didn't really work. So people here are more just, they just want to go and get it when they want it. So it's all about changing it if you need to. And just there.
I suppose with that's kind of more so on the eggs. We've just recently started in beef, and I suppose beef is just an add-on to the eggs. We have this customer base that we've built up through in the last couple of years. I don't know if we envisage the beef getting that big, but there's a bit of local demand, and if we can sell a few animals a year through that, it helps.
Certainly. Great. Thanks a million for that. That was a great overview from start to finish. I really like the one about Facebook. It sounds a small bit like how Donald Trump got elected, what you were at there, what you were at. But it seems to be it seems to be working for you. So no, absolutely. So I think we'll maybe touch on a few more of those points later in the question and answer session. But yeah, thanks a million. You really did cover from start to finish. Great overview. Clive. Big act to follow.
Oh yeah. 1 second now. Trying to fumble around here. Okay. I have a bit of a presentation. I'm going to try and get it working. Am I doing the right thing? Yeah.
Yep, something is starting there anyway, Clive.
Okay. That up. Okay, that's just cover image really. So my name is Clive Bright. I have a company called the Rare Ruminare, and we direct sell all our own beef off the farm, and we've started selling roast veal as well. And we're 100% pasture based, and we're organically certified as well. I think this is slightly off topic, but I think the cool thing about producing a product that's not probably the mainstream commodity is that it does open you up to a diversity of markets, and gives you resilience and security in your farm. Like if all fails, I can still sell into the commodity market. But artisan markets, farmer markets, and of course direct selling is open to me. So it's kind of a huge advantage of, I think, being able to set yourself a little bit apart by being certified organic, and the 100% grass-fed thing. Although there's kind of some certification here in Ireland, but it's not fully recognized. But I think customers who are looking for 100% grass-fed trust farmers who say that they're doing it, especially if you're direct selling. So the whole farm, it's a suckler to beef enterprise. So we rear most of our own animals from calves, and the main reason for that is that we have difficulty sourcing the type of animals or the genetics that will finish easily on grass for us on our land. So we've kind of developed a breeding herd that'll do that for us, and we work towards that. I think going into the future, I would hope to build relationships with other farmers, because at the moment I'm at full capacity, and the demand is huge. So I could sell probably maybe 2 or 3 times what I'm producing at the moment, and I'm limited by land area. I don't want to get any bigger from a farming point of view anyway, but I think, you know, if I had other farmers who were rearing calves for me, I could become I could buy weanlings and just finish, and yeah, it'd be a way to expand my output. Yeah, as I said, we're certified organic, and we practice holistic plant grazing. That's how we kind of manage our grass. It's kind of a very kind of pre-planned rotation throughout the season, and it kind of takes in a lot of stuff, including the environment, the soil type, the grass recovery rates, and all those kind of things. And the various points of kind of high nutrition in the year, and kind of trying to tie that in with the animals that we're trying to finish and trying to breed and all those kind of things. And we have a huge interest in silvopasture, because our land is quite heavy, and we find that trees integrated into that land helps a lot with water infiltration and allows for a lot more grass growth and shelter and welfare for the animals too, which is vital, that we have happy animals to produce high quality meat in the end of the day. The rose veal is, well, it started as a little experiment a while ago, working with an organic dairy farmer down the road. We were discussing with all the calves being exported, the dairy calves being exported, and there has to be, I think, with the right marketing, a really good home market for those calves as rose veal, because high welfare rose veal is delicious and it should be promoted, I think, at home. So the way I produce rose veal now is because we're always working on our genetics, every so often we get things wrong, and if a calf isn't showing promise to become kind of grass finished beef, we'll take that calf as rose veal instead, and at that kind of optimum point in their life, when they're kind of buttery fat from milk, at about 8 months usually. Yeah, the key thing for my business in general is this really strong relationship with my abattoir, and because yeah, like they're doing so, like I'm obviously just rearing the animal to the point of where it's killed, but beyond that, they dress all my meat, they hang it, they butcher really well, and it's not all just diced up in a bandsaw, it's done properly, and they package everything and label everything, so I don't actually handle any meat, and that's actually quite, it simplifies my business a lot, because I don't need to get inspected for handling meat. So I literally drop the meat into the abattoir and I collect it from their butcher unit just over 3 weeks later, and it's all packaged and boxed up, it's bagged and labeled, everything's ready to go, and I just pop it in a box and send it to customer, either by DPD or by local delivery myself. And yeah, it's a brilliant service that they provide for me, and they're quite an expensive abattoir, but they deserve every penny they get, and trust is obviously a huge thing, because once an animal goes into an abattoir, you may not recognize the animal as a carcass, so it could be anything, but you need to really trust your abattoir in that respect, and build a good relationship and make sure it doesn't end up in the local butcher shop instead. But I think the abattoir also has to be inspected by the organic certification body, and that kind of helps keep them in line as well. And if your abattoir is willing to be inspected, it's a good sign that they're going to serve you well. So yeah, so that's cool. I think it's really important that local abattoirs and butchers are obviously supported as well, and that they're a vital part of kind of short food chains and local communities and local jobs and all that stuff as well. I think I guess this goes without saying, but I think if you're direct selling something, you need to be able to stand behind it with kind of conviction, and be proud of what you do. And of course, it's very easy then to build trust with your customers, because you believe in what you do, and they're going to get that from you just through interactions. As far as kind of, I don't know, my experience of trying to get meat sold and get a product out there and build a customer base. I started with a website. I'm from a design background, and that was kind of they're the kind of things that I'm interested in and I'm drawn to, is kind of design and all that kind of stuff. So with the help of a group of friends, we came up with some branding and built a website. And I think all I would say about branding in general is to keep it simple and keep it consistent across all media platforms. And like even here, there's my meat labels. It's just a very simple kind of typography of the company name, but it's just replicated throughout everything. So the second image there are tea towels we printed on organic cotton for our customers at Christmas, and the third image is just my business card. But again, it's kind of replicating the same idea. We messed around with different ways of packaging meat as well. So we got these cooler bags printed. They were quite cool. But a little bit impractical. But we delivered a load of meat in them. We made 100 of them or something. So loads of customers have them, and every so often I see them on beaches and stuff when people are picnicking, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we didn't continue with that. But branding my vehicle was brilliant, and it was so simple. It was like 20 quid. And what it did was all my neighbors knew I was up to something, but they were kind of, I don't know, they presumed that they didn't want to ask, or they were embarrassed to ask because they I don't know, felt like they should know already or something. And when I had it on the Jeep, and there's more explanation on the tailgate of the Jeep, but then they could figure out how to Google me and figure out what was going on, and then go, oh yeah, cool, I might order a box of meat off him. So like that was so simple, but it gathered lots of traction. And I think I often find customers, when I ask them, they've come across me 5 or 6 times before they order. So they'll have seen an article in the paper, or they'll have seen tea towel hanging in someone's house, or they'll have seen the Jeep passing by, or and it kind of builds up this kind of just that you're around, and I guess over time as well, that you're still there and you're still on social media, posting and all that kind of stuff, that it builds up, and it finally sinks in that I must get some meat, and I know that guy Ruminare, he does meat, and then they contact you. So I think that's the consistency thing. You just gotta have a visual consistency as well, so that when they recognize it or spot it twice, that people know it's the same thing. Even then, when you're dealing with customers, that's my invoice is, the same branding is carried through, and the labeling, same thing again. Just while I'm on that note, the labeling, Barry had mentioned there about the authorities you have to deal with, and the company is registered with the HSE. It took a while. I ran text or ringing the department. They sent me to the HSE, and I went to the HSE, and they sent me to the department, and back and forth. And finally, the HSE said, right, we'll come and look at your business. But they had nothing to inspect apart from my procedure, because I don't handle the meat. So I'm basically a courier. So, but the procedure I had was covered very much by my organic paperwork, which was kind of cool, because within my organic paperwork, there's an abattoir book which records everything I send into the abattoir and where everything goes that I get out of the abattoir. So that was kind of my traceability chain was all there. So when the HSE came to inspect me, I could show them all that paperwork and everything was fine. And they inspect the label as well and make sure it covers all the legal requirements of a label. The only other thing I have to prove to the HSE is that I can maintain the cold chain. And we sell all our meat straight from the abattoir fresh. It's all pre-sold, so I don't store any meat at all. And we only sell one product. Really, it's a 20-kilo beef box, and if it's veal, it's a 10-kilo veal box. But predominant product is this 20-kilo beef box, and it's sold fresh, so it goes into I actually think I have a picture next. Yeah, it goes into the cool box, and this is a kind of a sustainable version of a cool box, because there's no polystyrene, obviously. So it's actually lamb's wool that lines the inside of a cardboard box, and you can put in a couple of ice packs, and I pack in 20 kilos of meat there, a few more ice packs on top, and tape it all up, DPD label, and off it goes. All I have to do is prove that that's below 5 degrees when it gets to the customer. So I've done various trials with time thermometer strips. You can get disposable ones. They use them in the pharmaceutical industry, and other things I've done. I've got restaurants. I don't really deal with restaurants that much, but when I do, I get them to photograph them probing when they get the meat and send it back to me. So I just have a kind of a record there for the HSE when they check that. And those cool boxes will actually hold temperature below 5 degrees for 2 days. So if DPD get delayed and the meat doesn't arrive the next day and it comes the day after, then it's still fine. And Wool Cool have a load of data and trials on their website as well that kind of backs all that up. Just one final thing about the sustainable packing. I find it really good for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's very on brand with kind of an organic, sustainable product, that your packaging is sustainable packaging as well. So kind of customers love that. And but also, I'd have a good few customers that would buy 3 or 4 or maybe 5 or 6 boxes a year. And if you're sending a polystyrene box to them that's got blood leakage on it that they can't recycle, there's nowhere really practical to dispose of that stuff. So I think those kind of things are worth considering, because if a customer ends up with 6 boxes in their garage a year, it won't be long till the garage is full and they won't know what to do with it, and then they'll stop ordering because it's a nuisance, you know. So the cardboard obviously just folds down into nothing, and you can compost the cool wool, and all you have is a plastic bag left. So I'll leave it at that, and happy to take any questions. Okay, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, Clive. That covered there. I think the one thing I noticed there is you mentioned that you put the branding on the door of the Jeep for €20, and I could see Ollie's eyes lighting up. I know what he's gone Googling straight after this. I think he'll be putting the labels on the Jeep. So we'll go into just a few questions here. So Esther, there's one here for you. Can you talk us through the process around packing eggs and the requirement for a dedicated space if over 50 layers?
Where's the info? Is it on? You need to, like with the Irish Organic Association, they have standards online, and really, like when you're thinking of starting up, check those standards. Was it for housing, was it?
Packing, I think, more so than housing. The process around the packing of the eggs and the requirement for a dedicated space.
A pack center is only really necessary if you're going into retail or restaurants. Initially, we didn't want it because one thing the department stipulated was we had to get an egg grader, which are quite costly, but we were able to get one at a more reasonable price secondhand. But I wouldn't really go looking into that unless you really want to scale up. I wouldn't go around the pack center. You know, it's just an extra job.
If you're doing direct sales, you don't need one. If you want to have the option of of selling into a cafe, of supplying a shop, then you need an egg packery. And like I'd say, what, over 200, 300 lines, I'd say, then to give you more options. Because it really did open up doors even for direct selling. But that is even probably more if you wanted to go retail.
I suppose what the department are looking for in terms of packs, you need a clean room, which every surface is washable. You need hot running water so you can wash your hands and clean up. And the thing that what got us was the egg grater. If you're to get us a new tabletop egg grater, you're probably talking about €3,500-4,000. We managed to get one for about €500, and it's not used because we pack all our eggs by hand. It's just a requirement. It's a requirement for the department. Yeah. And you just make sure every walls and floors are painted and everything is off the floor. So it's quite simple. It's just that you have a clean space. There's no size and how big it has to be.
Okay, good. You might tell us who is your typical customer?
I don't have one. There was one. When I'm asked this question, there's a funny story that always comes to mind. There was one time I was meeting a customer in a car park because he wasn't at home, and he couldn't fit a meat box into his Porsche because both boots were too small, so he had to put it on his passenger seat beside him. But just everyone, all sorts of people. We sell all the organ meat and bones as well. Well, we actually give them away to customers, but there's a huge demand from bodybuilders to just normal family houses to people with health issues, very keen on kind of completely chemical-free grass-fed beef. There's a like niche market there for that.
But it's more to individuals sold than hotels or shops or restaurants.
Yeah. From that point of view, yeah, we've done little bits with restaurants and things like that, but it doesn't really suit the model because I just sell that one product with the 20-kilo beef box, and then if you divert from that, it kind of messes up your whole logistics of the carcass. I think what I would say that I've kind of meant to mention in my talk was whatever route you take to direct selling is to keep it as simple as possible, and the simplicity that I've kind of restricted on mine is that 20-kilo beef box. That is one product. If a customer comes looking for a load of steaks or a load of roasts or what, we just want something specific, I just tell them to go somewhere else, because there's other people doing that. This is what I do. If it doesn't suit you, I'm not your man.
Okay, good. Barry, I might just ask you there, what would be the one single piece of advice you'd give someone starting out, thinking of direct selling?
I just want to compliment the two entrepreneurs there, because that's great examples of taking the whole supply chain by the scruff of the neck. And it's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not everyone that wants to do that and diversify, because there is a lot involved in it. And it probably sounds simpler than those guys are talking about, but I think if you look at the nuts and bolts of what they've gone through, they've invested a lot of their time and effort into developing their businesses, and that's what it's really all about. And I think you have to have skills, and you have to see what are the key interests and skills that you have. And you really have to examine the supports that are available. I went through the supports earlier on, Joe, and there's a lot of supports there that people mightn't even be aware of or mightn't be tapping into. And I'd be interested in hearing from both of the two the entrepreneurs there, as regards have they drawn down leader funding, or did they get support from the likes of their LEO, or were they aware of that at the time? And also what type of food diversification suits you, and sometimes you mightn't have the skill. You might actually have to upskill yourself. And I didn't mention courses there by the likes of the ETBs. It's another area. I mentioned the LEO courses that they put on, but if you go onto your educational training board, it's amazing the breadth of courses that they run, Joe, throughout the country, and they're fantastic courses and lots of them around food and HACCP training and hygiene around food. They're well worth having a look at as well. So I suppose looking at the education, what marketing expertise you need, and who can you bring on board, because having good people around you is the key for a good diversification, and you won't do it all yourself. So that those good people could be tapping into your LEO supports. It could be your family members, and it could be that bit of encouragement that you get from them to go that extra mile, to go that extra, that actually makes the whole thing happen. I think labor is the key thing, because labor is in short supply these days, and having people that you can, it's like in Clive's case that he has the labor available through the to the abattoir that he uses locally. That's great to be able to tap into that resource there, and they have a great working relationship. Reliability of people who you're working with and the partners who you're working with is so important. And things like the typical mistakes people make is, access to finance and not being able to get bridging loans, because very often if you are getting grants, you have to get a bridging loan for that period of time to cover until you get the grant paid through. That can be tricky for some people as well, coming up with the paperwork for all of that for banks, and not getting the key decision makers involved. Very often you may need to go to your local authority, you might have to build a building to make all of this work. That there could be a lot of, it could be the planning authority, it could be the bank manager, it could be family members. Getting them all on board is so important to make it all right. There's lots of others, but I won't go through them right now.
Thank you. I'm just going to throw one of the points you made there to. So Ollie and Esther, did you get support from any of the agencies that Barry outlined?
No.
No. Short answer.
We were aware of them, and it came up in conversation a few times, but I don't know, our vision was always start slow and small and gradually build ourselves and use our own money to put into the business. And
it's because you already had a farm business kind of selling beef to factory. We kind of had a base. So we started small, like even with Ollie built all the infrastructure himself, like the hen sheds that we need. So we didn't buy expensive sheds or egg packeries, or even, like he said, we got a second-hand grader. So we did everything ourselves. But in the future, because we're wanting to get maybe into, we're doing fruits, apples, blackcurrants and all that, and maybe doing a bit of food processing. So maybe doing,
I think down the line, especially with what Teagasc and with food and that we're going to have a lot of food coming down the line that we'd like to maybe make products out of that.
So if we're putting products, we might look at leader funding and also food hygiene courses. Yeah. And there was also a few years ago the Teagasc courses where you had small farm businesses coming in to chat. Like you might have two or three speakers a night. I think I went to 2 or 3 years of those, racking my brains trying to think of a food business. And it's really good when you're starting off to hear from other food businesses and chat to others. And
Leader would have been there as well.
Leader was there. Yeah. So it was really good help to get you kind of started.
That was more than likely the options program, Barry, I presume, which Barry is the main man driving the options program. So it's good to get feedback like that, Barry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they're a great resource, Joe, as well, in terms of, because when you're starting out in diversification for the first time, if you're among similar type people who are trying to develop a new business, it gives you that bit of confidence. And if you're hearing the stories, I suppose all works told as regards to what challenges they met along the way, those people who have tried to diversify maybe, and they'll tell you about their failures, they'll tell you about the things that went wrong and the things that went right. And it's great to hear from those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Clive, as regards the supports from the various agencies and so on, did you paddle your own canoe?
Yeah, I did have almost an identical answer to Ollie and Esther there. Again, it evolved slowly, and in one way, I probably didn't set out to do it. It just kind of happened, and I had built, the initial relationship with the abattoir, because we used to keep pigs for ourselves and just processing them, and I found he was a great abattoir to do that. And then we had some sheep, and we used to kill those, just a small flock. We kill those for ourselves and a few friends and family around. And I just started chatting to him about the possibility of doing a beef animal, and it kind of evolved out of that. So all the people who used to get a lamb off me took a beef box, and that's how the beef box happened in the first place. And that kind of clicked. Geez, that's the way to not to have to go to the mart. And because I hate to go to the mart, that was, you know, the motivator. And then said, sure, we'll start this, and just built a website and kind of went from there. So it happened very organically and slowly. I didn't set out one morning to go, I'm setting up a business. It was more a way of avoiding the things I didn't like within our own business, which was kind of selling into the commodity market and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of just happened. But like Ollie and Esther there, I at the start I mentioned about expanding, and there's another option other than expanding, and that is to value add what I have. And I think there's a huge potential to make things like bone broth and render down the fat and all that kind of stuff. Now, currently, my customers are taking all that stuff off me, and they're fighting over it, to be honest, to do the same thing themselves. But I think there's potential there to hold all that back and process it into products. And yeah, down the road, I think I definitely need help from future courses from that kind of thing. Just as far as courses go as well, there's also, just to add to Barry's list, there's the National Organic Training Skills Net, NOTS.ie, offer a great range of courses too throughout the year. So.
Yeah. Can I just ask one question, Joe, in relation to maybe Clive and maybe for Ollie and Esther as well? That obviously you're all adding value, and you're selling your product on, in your boxes and all of that. So you're adding value, and you're getting, and if somebody who's not in organics, they're in the conventional side of things, was doing what you're doing, they probably would be doing quite well out of it as well. I'm just wondering, is there a major advantage of being organic in doing what you're doing?
I can go on that first, if that's okay. I think there is, and mostly because it does set you apart, and there's a huge demand for organic, first of all. But like when I started, not selling direct, but when I started farming organically, I wasn't certified for a long time, and I just thought there was no need. And it was when the organic farming scheme opened up 1 year. I said, I have absolutely nothing to do to comply for this other than fill out the paperwork, and so it was kind of free money to me at the time. And I was really shocked at the opportunities that opened up. Like even the network of people that I could deal with, the flexibility to trade with animals, and animals more suited to what I was at. I had more access to that, and animals that I needed to sell, I had a broader market because I could sell both to the organic people and conventional people if needs be. But as far as the product goes, I think, like on one point of view, like I pretty much text or talk or email all my customers at some point, so like you do forge a relationship there. But I think before you even get to that point, people trust the organic brand, and I think it probably brings a lot of people to me in the first place. And it's a whole conversation that doesn't need to happen. It's quite time consuming. Go, oh yeah, I do actually farm organically, but I'm not certified, and go through that whole blah blah blah. So I really value my organic certification for lots of subtle reasons. It's not a big blah, this makes me loads of money, but I think it builds up across a lot of areas. And the organic community as well of farmers, and the resources around all those things is really strong and generous as well.
Okay, Ollie and Esther, will put the same question to you.
I suppose from a personal point, our farm has been organic since the early 90s, so all I know is farming is organic, so I can't talk of the conventional side. But what I can say is, in terms of egg production, there is a lot of new startups in terms of mobile coops, pasture raised, and they claim that they're feeding organic, blah, 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 but there's no traceability with it. I suppose when you're under the organic brand, everything is traceable. Like, you know, every bag of feed you buy has to have a docket and receipt for it. So what the customer is getting with that is that assurance that your product is what you say it is.
Absolutely. Okay, good. Thank you. Two good answers. There's just two more questions there in the Q&A, and Clive, I think they're for you. I'll give you the two of them there together. First one is, what size do you slaughter your cattle? So I presume what weight do you slaughter them at? And the second is, what breed do you mainly have?
Yeah, they're very connected questions. I have no allegiance to any breed, but I do have an allegiance to a type. And I'm not a breeding expert at all, but I've kind of found I have a very unique, I suppose, opportunity to learn my trade, in that I'm bringing in a live animal, which I've spent a lot of time looking at, and the next day I can pop down to the abattoir and look at the carcass and go, oh, right, that, you know, that shape on that animal means that on the carcass. And you know, even to handle an animal and get a good bearing on what kind of fat cover it has, and try to understand that quite well is brilliant. So through all that, and because grass fattening cuts out a lot of crutches within farming, because, you know, you can make a poor animal look good by feeding it loads of grain. So yeah, and kind of so it needs to be quite a smaller animal. Large framed animals just won't finish on grass easily, and we don't kind of beat ourselves up if we don't meet 30 months, but we nearly always do, and it's always below 30 months. And we you know, midsummer, kind of September time, if animals are within that cycle, they're easily finishing at 26 months, no problem, and sometimes a little bit below. But I found that for flavor, it's actually better to get closer to 30 months. But if it's an early finishing animal like an Angus, naturally, like genetically early finishing, and they go beyond 30 months because they're huge, they tend to get a bit tough. So if I'm using Angus, I want them to be neat and small. We've it's tinkered a lot just to get the frame score down a bit. We used some Irish Moyle bulls and found that the flavor was incredible. So we're going to focus on some traditional breeding like that, and finding good Irish Moyle bull that'll put on some good meat is always on my mind. But I'm quite happy to cross. I'm not about purity at all. It's more about crossing in and trying to develop cows that are a certain type, cows are very feminine and very balanced, and they're breeding well, we mostly kill bullocks that'll finish around 600 kilos, and that'll hang at a carcass weight of around 300 kilos. And if they're nicely balanced, fine bone animals, they'll kill out 52 to 54%. So I'll definitely get 10-20 kilo boxes out of that carcass. Yeah, so that kind of answers it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, perfectly. Yeah. Okay, I think we're getting near the end, so I'm just going to ask our two farming guests one question each. Clive, you have the website up and running. So for someone out there that doesn't have a website up and running, where would they start? Or how? Where'd you go?
I was really lucky. I was working on a design team on a big project, and with that design team there was a guy who was an IT specialist, and over a number of pints we came up.
You came up with a website.
But I have had a slight involvement with a Squarespace site, and very easy to work and design on that if you have any kind of an eye at all. Just again, I would make sure that whatever you're doing on your website is consistent visually with everything else.
Okay.
That same thing, keep the branding across all your platforms consistent, that the website doesn't look completely different in shape, has different fonts and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
And colors to the way you present yourself on social media. So,
Barry, do you want to make a quick comment on where someone would go to get going with website development?
Yeah, well, there's lots of IT specialists out there that will do that, but in terms of getting funding for it, I think the LEO is up to €2,500 in funding available from the local enterprise office for the marketing of your product. So that is a resource that's available to you, and of course, your local LEO will have contacts with IT providers who are I suppose working in that particular area, and maybe would be able to advise maybe on the food side versus the tourism side. So I think it'll be important to work with reputable people there as well.
Perfect, thank you. And Ollie and Esther, I'm going to give you the final question. Someone has an idea in their head. Where do they start? How do you get that idea out of your head and onto the table?
Like sometimes you just have to run with it. Like you can have so many ideas, and you have then these pros and cons just come up. And like we definitely talked to a lot of people, wrote down a lot of lists, but then at the end of the day, we just ended up going, okay, let's order 300 hens.
Yeah, with so many ideas for the farm that I want to do and make a living off the farm, and me give up my job, and sometimes you just have to go with something and just do it.
And even like, if first, you can always sell it if you buy it. So we had 6 months to get ready, or you might get something and then realize it's working and then you can upscale. But I'd say maybe not a big investment and risk to start off.
Yeah, don't go in over. Yeah, don't go to the bank, get a huge loan. Just start off slow and
you
small.
You can do everything. You can borrow stuff. You can find stuff. Like there's lots of ways of doing things without getting yourself in a hole.
Crawl before you start running. So, yeah. Perfect. Great piece of advice. So look, I think we'll bring it to a close there. There's just one comment gone in there that you can set up a website using things like WordPress and Shopify are easy to use. So a good tip there from one of our audience. So look, I'm going to bring it to a close. So I would like to thank our 4 speakers. So Barry, Clive, Ollie and Esther, thank you all for great presentations and great practical advice to people. Our crowd might not have been massive, but this will be available as I think a fantastic resource on the Teagasc website for anyone that is thinking of selling direct. And I would just like to thank you hugely for your honesty and for all the amazing advice that you have given to anyone thinking of direct selling. So thank you, and thanks to all that tuned in. And as I say, this is the end of our spring webinar series. We're hoping to pick it up again maybe in the autumn. Just to remind people that are there is a conference on in the RDS. It's called Growing Organics on Friday. It's at 2 o'clock. If you go into Eventbrite and you put in Growing Organics into Eventbrite, it'll take you as to how to register it. It's an online event, and it's basically looking at how can we take the organic industry in Ireland from its current level of 2% to 7.5% by 2027, and what needs to happen. So I think it will be an interesting conference with some very good speakers there. So thanks to everyone, and we will see you all hopefully in the autumn time again, and maybe in between.
Right.
So thanks everyone.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
Right.